Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Jamie, and with me this week is...
Dac.
And Data.
And no Joe. Aw.
Nope. It's Joe's anniversary, everyone, so he's getting the day off.
What are we going to do? Be upset that someone missed a week? Oh, oh well. Like we have a leg to stand on.
No legs. Okay, well, this week we are covering Elantris, chapters 23, 24, and 25, wherein Serene's widow's trial is underway, and she has assistance from Raoden, who she does not recognise. Hooray then observes ongoings in Elantris and contemplates Dilaf's age and influence over the cave priests, and Raoden and his people are making use of the supplies from Serene and make a discovery that may help them unlock secrets of the magic in Elantris. Lots of things happening in these chapters, so hang on to something. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
Just for anyone, to let you guys know, in the middle of recording the intro here, my computer gave out, so I am on my phone recording this, so I may not sound as awesome as usual, or maybe I sound way better. I have no idea. Probably not the latter, but you know. So if I'm sorry if the sound quality on this one isn't great. This is going to be the episode where Joe's gone and I sound horrible. Just no one's going to want to listen. Yeah, so Joe is gone this week, but he left us a few minutes of him telling us what he thought of the chapter, so he didn't have to miss out. So I guess I'm going to put that in right about now when I go, hey, everybody, what did you think of the 3 chapters you read this week? And I don't know if he'll be first or last or in the middle just for fun, but it'll be one of those, I'm sure. So what did you guys think of the 3 chapters?
I liked them again. Not as much happening as what I sort of thought there would be, particularly with like Raoden's chapters. But I'm so far enjoying the widow's trial, and it's sort of sad to see the effect that that's having on everything that Raoden and Galladon have sort of accomplished so far. But it's a bit of fun, I guess, Raoden being in there with Serene and all his friends. Bit sad that like no one recognizes him. Like, oh, come on, surely someone goes, hey, you look familiar. But I guess he's trying not to look familiar as much as possible. I thought surely someone would go, yeah, you're familiar, but no one's expecting to find him in there either, so I guess it kind of makes a bit of sense. And a really cool little insight into some magic, having an area of Elantris that's been untouched by the Raode? Shaode?
The Raode, yeah.
Raode?
The Shaode is when they become Elantrians, and that's what it was called before everything went bad also. And then the Raode is like how it going bad, basically.
And the Hoed are the ones who are well past it.
Yeah. See, there's just so many crazy, I almost said stupid words. That's not fair. There's so many crazy words that it's hard to keep track.
So many new words, crazy words.
It's not even so much there's so many of them. It's just that a lot of them are very similar. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, it was nice that Raoden's starting to figure some things out. He's getting better with the Aeons, and Aeon doors come back in as well a little bit here. It'll be really good to see what's actually going on, and a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel that maybe they're not actually dead, and there might be some hope for them, which is lovely. I hope there is.
Right? Wouldn't that be nice?
They deserve a bit of good news,
And I agree with what you're saying about it. It's sad that none of his friends recognize him. He's trying to avoid them for the most part. And he recognizes Serene immediately, despite having only seen her, via Seon. But yeah, it's sad that nobody notices that this is a guy that they knew really well.
He does seem to be going to a fair amount of effort, though, to sort of stay under the radar, I guess, in terms of his identity. If someone was looking for him, they'd probably figure it out. But he's trying to hide his mannerisms and little things that he would have done normally that someone would go, hang on a minute, that's familiar. So, I get it. But Serene doesn't know him that well. So,
It's true.
Yeah, these chapters were good. I agree. I was expecting a lot more chaos out of this than actually happened. I was especially expecting Shayor's bestial guys to just like start attacking willy nilly. That didn't quite happen. So like, okay, that's curious. But so it was I don't want to say more subdued, but it was just I guess it's just more of that tension. You're waiting for the bomb to go off and it doesn't go off, and so it's just amping up the fear factor even more. So that was cool. Yeah, like probably the biggest thing I got. Well, the two biggest things I got out of this was finding out the magic is still around or in some capacity. With this little magic pool at the end, and also halfway through Serene's chapter, we cut back to Raoden's viewpoint, and like, whoa, that's not. Whoa, hang on. That was a bit of a jump. I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, it didn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
Jumping back to someone else, I was like, whoa, what?
It may be the first time. I guess not the very first time. It's one of the first times any of our main characters have been in the same place as any of our other main characters for any length of time. So.
Yeah, well, Serene and Wraithen have crossed paths a few times before this, but like I get why storytelling wise, like you had to have this, you had to see the other side of the coin, and the way the 3-chapter triads are structured, you couldn't possibly get that in the order he got. But yeah, it just felt like such a jar. Like, oh, hang on, why, what, no, and then eventually it settled back down. But just like that was a break in structure, and it was kind of scary.
You're breaking down the what you've given us for a whole half the book so far, Brandon. What are you doing?
You're messing with the order, man. Don't mess with the order.
That's the best part of him setting up this structure for the whole book so far, is that now he can use it to mess with you.
Yep.
You have expectations.
That's clearly what he was going for.
Right? These chapters feel like we're on the cusp of like things happen, like kind of like Dac said actually, because he's like, I expected there to have been more, like even with Shayor's men, like something feels like it was about to happen, and I really think that these chapters are us on the cusp of things are about to happen.
Hey, it's Joe. I want to talk about the chapters now. So these chapters were good. I really like the trade negotiation in the first chapter. Between Raoden and Serene. I feel like their back and forth was also really fun. The whole negotiation scene where Marishi's playing Andon, very fun. I really wanted to figure out that it was him, but it's understandable that she didn't. Hopefully we'll have time for a reveal on that. And so that's pretty much the whole first chapter for me. It was kind of a fun but also sad kind of thing where she doesn't realize it's him and he's kind of just play acting there. Second chapter, right off the bat, the first thing I noticed was yet another mention of the pirate Crushthroat. They keep bringing this guy up, and I gotta think like there's something behind that, right? They're not just bringing him up for no reason. So that was something that was interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, Wraithen's having trouble keeping his faith. Dilaf, he thinks maybe Dilaf would be better suited for what he's trying to do, which is kind of different. So. And then, the last chapter, Raoden helps Serene distribute the food. He's been helping her every time that they come in. But this whole chapter is really kind of a downer, honestly. And I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately with these chapters. But, Raoden's pain is getting worse. We hear a little bit about Galadin's backstory, which is really sad. And then at the very end, there's kind of some like hope of something interesting going to happen. And we do find like a hidden area where it hasn't been affected by the Shayad and all that stuff, but then they go to this like melting lake, which is very strange. So yeah, very interesting discussion about what is keeping the magic from working. I really liked all of it, and very strange, this lake thing, the old man. So obviously there's something more going on, hopefully with these new books. And this untouched part of Elantris will get a little more involved with what's actually going on there. Hopefully, that'll be something that we get soon. But yeah, that's what I thought about the chapters. They were all good. So now I'm gonna move on to my favorite, I guess, moments. I already talked briefly about like Raoden and Serene's back and forth, very fun. And this mention of Crushthroat again, I have to reiterate, just very different, interesting. There's got to be something more there. I'm kind of feeling for Hrathen now, you know? Like, he took Omen, I guess. He took his words to heart, and he's really trying to think through, like, what do I believe? Who am I? What do I do here? And then, Raiden, just sad. Every time we go back to Raiden and the people in Elantris, I mean, it's a sad situation to begin with, but I feel like we're getting more and more and more. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about this week. Sorry I'm not around to get your back and forth on this, everybody.
If I remember correctly, and don't quote me on this, but I think next week's chapters will be things happening and very interesting.
Woo!
So yeah,
Chaos.
I guess let's get into these chapters. Okay, let's do this. It's funny, like chapter 23, according to my Kindle here, is exactly 50% of the way through the books. We are halfway at the beginning of these chapters. I assume that we will have progressed by the end of them.
Someone call Bon Jovi.
So we start with Serene this time, I believe, and Eondel and Shuden are both going with her to meet the lords of Elantris, as it were, quote unquote. And we get her perspective on Spirit / Raoden,
Which, like, he's straight away. I'm just like, whoa, we skipped over their first meeting in person.
Yeah, I guess it kind of did. Like, who knows? I guess he walks up and he's like, hey, come with me or something, and that's where we come in.
It's like, maybe it's a mundane thing, but even so, I'm just like, oh man, that's it's one of those things in my head that's got to be way more monumental than. I mean, sure, Serene doesn't think so, but
yeah, for Raoden it's probably a big deal, huh?
Yeah,
I understand why you don't move on to that in his previous chapter though, because it's a much better sting at the end of the chapter to be like, no, you have to practice being Andon.
Oh yeah, his chapter ended at a great place. And seeing it from Serene's perspective might not have had as great of impact, but it still feels just like did we just seriously skip that? I don't know. There's no solution to this. There's no good way without ruining something. So
yeah,
I was just kind of like, Spirit. We know someone named Spirit. Oh. I'm having a slow morning, everybody.
Oh my God. Yeah, because she's like, what's your name? And he says, they call me Spirit. And she thinks that it is a fitting name, that he's a ghost of what he once must have been. Which, ouch, that kind of hurts. If you're Raoden, at least. And so they go into this building, which they're worried about. This looks like it's about to collapse, but that's all the buildings in Elantris pretty much, right? So, beggars and choosers. And so we have our friend Marishi pretending to be Andon, and then Karada as herself. And they're like, okay, what do you want? And Serene's like, I thought you guys were enemies. And Andon's like, well, we realized that, having an alliance could be beneficial. And I like she thinks of him as his small face shriveled like that of a rodent.
brutal.
Pompous, self-important attitude was exactly what Serene had expected. Like, geez, Marishi's not that bad. I mean, he's a little bit pompous maybe, but
Marishi's gonna build a. I'm surprised he doesn't just press a button. She falls down a trapdoor or something. It's like, that's the Marishi special.
It totally would be. Or like there's a giant Rube Goldberg device, like drops an anvil on her head.
It's like, oh, you insult me, do you? Well, prepare to have a visit from the slime bucket, and just pulls a lever, and the roof collapses and she gets drenched.
Oh my gosh, that's what we've been doing to hold that slime. Okay, now I get it. Been all preparing for this one moment. And then they tell her that Sheor is dead, which, honestly, I feel like maybe you want to be honest about Sheor. It's like, look, you could go, but it's not going to be a good thing. Like, there's some of these people who are just nuts and they rip you apart, and you don't want to mess with that. Like, that's maybe the way I would go with it. But
pretty risky lie.
Especially considering that those wild men could show up at any time. Yeah. Like, seriously. And I like, she's like, they're like, what do you want? And she's like, I want to bribe you. And it's like, okay then. Karada's like, well, what need have we of your bribes, woman? And then I love Serene. She's like, okay, look, you guys are obviously not great at this, so it would be a waste of my time for us to have extended negotiations here. I want to bring people food. I know you guys are in charge. I want you to let me bring them food, and in exchange, I will give you stuff. What do you want? And I like, she's like, you have a scribe to write down our demands? And Serene says, I do, and turns to Shuden. Like, that's a little demeaning to be like, yes, this is my scribe.
I wonder, did she run that by him beforehand, or is he just like, you know how much I paid for this paper?
I assumed that this was the plan since he had a paper and pen to pull out, or a pencil. It says a charcoal pencil, but still. And it was a very extensive list, but it's all kind of mundane stuff: cloth, grains, metal sheets, lengths of wood, straw, and oil. She says the message was clear. Rule of Elantris depended not on force or wealth, but on basic necessities. She still doesn't understand that they don't have basic necessities. So,
well, again, that's just something no one's really explaining to her. It took forever for her to work out. No one feeds them. Like, that's like the biggest thing.
I'm still not certain she believes that they never get food at all, but she clearly knows that they don't have enough food, just based off the reactions that we see. And Serene's like, is that everything? And Karada's like, well, for the first few days. And Serene's one rule is you have to let the people come to me. You can't keep anybody from coming. And Karada gives her word that they will not.
I guess at least they're getting something out of it. They're having an opportunity to say, well, we need all of these things.
Right?
You know, it's not a complete write-off. When you first saw Serena come into the city and they were like, shit, there goes our plan. At least now they're still getting something out of it, even though it's not what they wanted to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they really did make a big list and she comes through on all of it, that's great. They haven't even been able to make any new clothes because there's no cloth. So if they just some cloth so they aren't all dirty and gross all the time would be amazing. But not to mention, like, they asked for several grains and stuff so they can plant more food.
Did they ask for grain?
Yeah, it says the cloth and then moved through various grains. So several grains, apparently.
Oh, I assume that was cloth being made. I don't know how cloth is made, but like how textiles work. But
something about like filtered through grain or something. It was worded a bit strangely.
Yeah, it is worded a little bit strangely because it says that the demands began with cloth and then moved through various grains.
The demands are what moved. I thought the cloths were what moved through the grain, and that was some sort of manufacturing process I didn't quite understand.
Also, you know what? Beggars can't be choosers, guys. You get what cloth you get.
Yes, we only want the highest quality cotton. Bitch, you're getting wool.
Yeah, it's like if nothing less than 1,000 thread count. We're very particular here in Elantris.
Polar fleece? Who the fuck wants polar fleece?
I can't even. It's like what, leather? We don't want leather jackets. How's that going to help us? Although Idon just did make a great deal for some silks to be sold to Teodes, so maybe she can get in on some of that.
Maybe.
Sure.
We want some silk gowns here in Elantris. They have to be shimmery. It'll be great.
Serene's like, sorry, the entire silk stock's been promised to Teode.
Yeah, probably. They had a very good price.
I was gonna say, at those prices, Idon's not gonna let that go.
Nope. He's like, whatever silk I can find to stick on a boat, it is going there. Yeah, and you're right. I actually didn't even notice, I don't think, this time through. Maybe I did the first time. That right in the middle of her chapter, we switched her out, and Marishi's like, was that good enough, my lord? And Marishi's so proud of himself. I haven't had much experience with acting, but I think that I played a properly decisive and intimidating leader.
I think I nailed it.
Yep. I haven't acted much, but I'm pretty sure I'm perfect at it.
And both Rowden and Karada are just immediately just like, he was neither intimidating nor decisive. It's like, man, everyone just dunks on this guy, and he's making everything for them. I get he's got a bit of an attitude problem, but he's loyal, and he is building them literally everything. So give the guy a break.
It's true. Like Galadon especially. Galadon just seems to hate Marishi. And so we've seen him just like be flat out mean several times. And it's like, dude, really?
I think that came from because Marishi was their first recruit. Galadon was just like, no, Raiden is my best friend. Like, who's this other guy trying to take my best friend?
In Duladel, they have special, friendship requirements. It's a whole thing, I'm sure. Duladel's known for their friendship. That's going to be our new running joke. It's just like, oh yeah, Duladel's known for that. Galadon is there, and he's like, she suspected something, and Run's like, well, yeah, but she doesn't know what. So let her suspect Andon and Karada are playing tricks on her. That actually works in our favor. It's funny that they have Andon or Tan, so they have the real one in their group, but they were like, nah, let's get a fake Andon. That'll be way better. Like Tan's too weird.
Well,
He's too
Tan has-
busy looking at all the sculptures.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's completely forgotten. It's like, I was a leader?
He's
Like, we
he's
need-
lost his moustache.
Yes, exactly. That's what it
The
is. It's the
The
mustache.
moustache
is
has
gone.
been taken.
Can't be ending without the mustache. Hopefully Marie has it.
Well, I mean, they don't mention it, so we can only assume that he does.
Right, yeah, I'm just assuming he does, yeah. Unless they specifically say he has no mustache on his, like, rat face or whatever Serene was thinking it was. Big mustache rat face, right, yeah.
Mustache rat face. What a name.
And Galadon is like, why don't we just, like, tell her the truth? Bring her to the chapel, let her see stuff, which is my whole thing. I'm like, why are we doing this thing where we're going to lie to her? And Robin's like, no, we can't let our secret out. The people of Erelon tolerate Elantris because the Elantrians are so pitiful. If they discover that we're actually organizing ourselves, then their fears will surface, and there's a big difference between a mass of moaning wretches and a legion of unkillable monstrosities. Which, yeah, okay, when you put it that way.
Yep, can't argue with that.
And Robin's like, Galadon says she's determined, and Robin's like, yeah, I don't think she likes me very much. And Karada's like, well, I mean, yeah, she does think you're the lackey of a tyrant, so why would she like you? I don't know that Karada is in on the fact that this is his wife, mate, kind of. So it's a weird situation because the contract said if he died, they were married, but he didn't die, really. Or maybe that counts as dying. I'm not sure if they're married or not at this point.
Everyone seems to regard becoming an Elantrian as dead. So, even the Elantrians regard it as
yeah.
such, so...
Yeah.
Hell, Raiden himself said that.
Maybe it counts then. And so Rauden wants to go and watch or attend all of the handing outs of stuff. That's his thing. And I like that he's like, this is like a sneaky woman. He's like, she doesn't strike me as the type to do anything without several motives. And I wonder just what made her decide to come in here and do this. So he likes her, but he's also like, she's a little bit, I'm suspicious of her.
She's cunning.
She is. That is a good word for Serene.
Yeah.
And then we come back to Serene, and Ian does, well, that went well. And Shuden's like, yeah, we can give him all that stuff. It's cheap. And she's like, oh, I hate dealing with these kind of people. And the other two are like, I mean, they didn't really look much better off than anyone else we've seen here. So maybe it's not a matter of them being oppressive tyrants as just people who are also oppressed.
Some people rise to adversity a lot better than others do.
That's true. And clearly some people react very differently to it, as we've seen. Karada got motivated when she saw the children, and other people they walk in and just stand there, basically. Or if you're Galadon, you just wander around and hear the rumors. You heard the rumor, right?
The more we talk about it, I'm just like, so is Galadon Jeff Goldblum?
That's exact. After I watched that clip, now every time I'm just like, Galadon is absolutely Jeff Goldblum. Like, so you heard the rumor?
You heard the rumors, right?
I haven't seen the movie. I just saw that one clip that after you talked about it on that episode, but now it's just in my brain.
I mean, it makes sense. They're like, the dogs also in that movie got exiled to basically a garbage dump where they can't leave. So
it totally fits.
Yeah.
But Serene's like, no, you guys don't know about the horrible stories I've heard about this place. The guards say this, and Shuden just raises an eyebrow and then looks over at the guards leaning lazily on their spears, and she's like, okay, fine. Maybe they aren't the most reliable source, but they're what we have. And also, look how hungry all these people look. And like, she thinks these people look terrible and hungry because they're being oppressed, which is part of what I was saying. Is like, I think she still doesn't understand that, like, these people don't get food. It's not that their oppressors are keeping them down and taking things from them. Nobody gets food.
Also, there's an interesting little note here, which I don't know if we knew before, but she says, oh, I've seen these sort of people in Fjord and in Hrovel and all these other places. I'm just like, I didn't realize Serene was quite so well traveled.
I think it was one of the first things we learned about her, actually, because yeah, we find out, like, maybe in her first chapter, that she's been on, like, she worked for her father's diplomatic corps and has been to lots of places as, like, a diplomat.
Okay. I could have forgotten. That was a whole baby ago.
Yeah, it was a very long time ago. So, yes, she knows a thing or two and has seen a thing or two. Which really, I feel like, conflicts with her whole thing about, like, how she spent her life in Teod and all the people, like, they respected her, but they didn't like her or whatever. And I'm like, it sounds to me like you spent a lot of that time in other countries where people didn't know you at all, but whatever. And so they're gonna start pulling boxes off the cart, and she's like, "Han, you also have to help. You can't sit over there on the sidelines." And he's like, "I hope you appreciate my sacrifice, Serene. This slime is absolutely ruining my cloak." Which, yeah, the front area they have cleaned of slime, so it's all gross out here. And she's like, "I told you to wear something inexpensive." And he's like, "I don't have anything inexpensive, okay?"
Whose fault is that?
Maybe you don't understand how rich I am. I think you need to wear a monocle. And then Royal just shoots back. It's like, "You mean you actually paid money for that horribly ugly robe you wore to this person's wedding? I didn't know that shade of orange even existed."
And it's like, okay. So he's taking pot shots at Orange. Queen Eshin was taking pot shots at Orange. And then later on in these same chapters, I think Raiden and Galadon was just like, fuck, they gave us the worst kind of orange ever. What does Brandon have against orange?
I think Eshin didn't like yellow, wasn't it?
Was it?
Because she was like blonde and yellow are different things.
Oh, no, she said she liked orange. And she's meant to be the idiot we disagree with everything on. So it's like, so it still comes back to Brandon hates orange.
Well, I think, and maybe this is just my headcanon, I think that when she decides to give them ugly cloth, she remembers this conversation and it's like, what was that super ugly color that you said that his outfit was? Because that's what I'm going to give him.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Oh, Serene.
They're in prison. I'm going to give them cloth like prison jumpsuits.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. But that's kind of true. And Royal is helping, though slightly injured. It says rumors had it that he'd fallen one morning while climbing out of bed. So it's very easy to forget how old this dude is.
Yeah, I think I do forget sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, Royal's not like, yeah, he makes jokes about being a dirty old man, but you think of like that is like, oh, you know, late 50s or something maybe. And it's like, no, this guy could actually be pushing 70.
I think we may have found out earlier that he's in his 70s, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah. It's just the way he talks. It's so easy to forget.
Yep, and that's what she says, or what she thinks in this chapter is like it's easy to forget that because of his attitude.
Yeah.
He has a spry attitude. And so she's just, handing out boxes, and then at some point realizes that Spirit is the one taking the boxes from her. She's like, "You!" I wonder how long it would take you to notice. But he's been there 10 minutes to helping unload. And she's like, "Iandel, why's that guy here?" Like, apparently his master ordered him to watch. Apparently Andon trusts you about as much as you trust him. So I like that in the story they've created, Spirit works for Marishi.
Yeah.
And then she slips on some slime, and Rowden catches her. He's like, "Careful, it takes some getting used to walking in here." And then it says she pulled her arms out of his grasp, his helpful grasp. "Thank you," she muttered in a very unprincess-like voice. I don't know what that means exactly. Like, is that a bad voice?
No. Maybe she grumbled something. I don't know. Like condescending or something. I don't know.
I feel like a princess might be condescending. Like, I don't know what is an unprincess-like voice.
Maybe she was too kind.
She's too friendly. Well, and see, and that was actually my thought. Is she getting a little personal with him when she says thank you and almost embarrassed? It's like, oh, what? I wasn't like aloof enough to be a princess there. Or is she like rude and snippy and that's why it's not princess like? It can go either way.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, they're handing out food. He's watching, but nobody's coming to take the food. And Serene's like, why aren't they taking any? And he says, well, they're scared and disbelieving. This much food must seem like an illusion, a trick their minds have surely played on them hundreds of times. And so he picks up a turnip and she just munches a big old bite out of the turnip.
I can't imagine that a turnip is a vegetable you'd want to eat raw. There was really nothing else, dude. I mean, but I guess if you're that hungry.
I was thinking maybe if you sliced it up and like put some little pieces in a salad, like you do with an onion or something, then maybe a turnip raw wouldn't be so bad. But I'm not eating it like an apple.
Yeah.
What's the other vegetable that you put in a salad like that?
I think, yeah, it's onion. Or radish?
A radish. That's the other one that I was thinking of. Thank you.
I once saw a dude in high school. I never knew this guy. It was just like one of those people you pass in the corridor, you recognize the face, you don't actually know who they are. And like every time I passed him, like it's like, oh, dude's got another apple. He's just eating an apple. Like whatever. He's the apple guy. And then one day I passed him a little bit closer, and I got a closer look at what he was eating, and that wasn't no apple. He was eating like an entire bulb of garlic.
Oh God,
And I was like, whoa, that's intense.
that is really intense. What on earth?
I don't know. Like, I know nothing else about that guy except he went from apple guy to garlic guy.
Those are two very different guys in my brain, apple guy and garlic guy. Like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
right?
One's crazy. Not
One
the
is
apple.
very crazy, yes.
It's like, and I just flash back to every other time I've seen him eating an apple. I'm just like, I thought, look, I like a good apple too. So like, having an apple a lot of the time, that's fine. But like, that means he ate shit tons of garlic.
I can't imagine it would be nice. Also, I just always think that like once you just eat so much garlic, I'm sure you start to just smell like garlic.
Yes, I would absolutely agree that is almost certainly a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never know what happened to that guy. He was in a different year than me, so like I said, don't know who he was, don't know what else, anything else about him except he just ate garlic. Always wonder what happened to that guy.
He turned into a clove of garlic. That guy
Probably
went on to
just
become the
vampire.
Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh dear God.
Oh dear.
You ever watch the CinemaSins, like Everything Wrong With videos?
Yeah, all the time. I love those ones.
Because that's the first thing I thought of when you said a guy eating an apple. I'm like, oh, so he's an asshole.
Yep.
We want you to eat an apple so you look like an asshole. Or so the audience knows how much of an asshole you are. Whatever they always say in that video. But no, see, there's nothing wrong with being an apple guy. There's something deeply wrong, I feel like, with being garlic guy. But I don't know. I
Need to make him
shouldn't
happy.
judge. Yeah, right? As long as he's happy, I suppose.
Yeah.
And Serene even thinks like, wow, that raw turnip must be like raw or bitter, and except he seems to really be enjoying it, and that's enough to trigger everyone else to be like, oh hey, we can eat this food, alrighty then. And even and she the nobles start actually seeming to think of these people not as monsters. Even Ahan, like a little girl walks up and he like smiles at him when she gets her little bag of food, and he pauses for a moment, and it seems to actually affect him. And then we cut to afterwards, and she's talking to her Seon. She's like, there's something about this dude, Aish. The spirit guy. Like,
Finally twigged. Oh no, he's the leader.
well, yeah, apparently Marishi's acting was even worse than we originally thought, because she's like, yeah, Anthony kept like looking over at him as if for approval during our discussion.
Dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's like, Aish, he says he hasn't talked to any of the people in Elantris lately, so if something has changed, then maybe he wouldn't know it. So she wants him to go and find out more information about this spirit dude. And she's like, maybe you're stretching yourself a little thin. Like, you've already decided to confront the Gyorn, liberate the court women from masculine oppression, save Erlon's economy, and feed Elantris. Maybe you just let this one go.
All in a day's work for a tier princess.
Yeah, see, being a princess is hard. What can you do? She's up to the
This
challenge. It's fun.
She just really likes puzzles. Like if you gave her a crossword book, she'd probably be done for the day.
Yeah, I can see that. And she's also very like worldly and like traveled and bright, so I think she would be good at crosswords.
Oh yeah.
But I like her response is like, no, you're right. I am way too busy to deal with this guy. That's why you're going to go find out for me. And we end her chapter with her being like, yeah, I shouldn't care what this guy thinks. So why do I care what this guy thinks? She's already maybe a tiny bit crushing on Spirit.
Because you're married to him.
Yeah, it's good reason.
No.
That's my husband.
And we cut to Hrathen's chapter. And it starts out with he's hot in his big ass blood red armor in the bright sunlight. Yeah, that'll do it.
I keep forgetting that his armor is red.
Mhm.
And then it brings up that it's red. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Yes.
I always forget that he wears armor all the time until they say it. And I just imagine him, walking around in clothes and preaching or whatever. And then they mention him like, oh, right. He's got like this big ass plate armor with like shoulder pads or whatever that go out a foot to either side of him, probably clanking around.
I mean, probably makes his sermons a little bit more intimidating.
Right.
I imagine if you went to church and the priest was up there delivering a sermon like with a full suit of plate mail on, you'd be like, probably more inclined to listen than the dude in the robes.
Right. You had my interest. Now you have my attention.
Yeah.
But he's standing up here. Apparently, there's a bunch of people up on the wall, and he is among them, watching Serene, getting ready to hand out food. And all these people showed up because after all of Hrathen's preaching, they expect Elantrians to come and rip her apart.
Watching it like watching a sportish shark fight. Fucking what?
Yeah, sportish shark fight.
I want to know more about that. Come on.
You gotta read at some point The Lives of Loch Lamora, because they have it, like the city that it's set in is kind of like a Venice type place, with canals all over the place.
Yeah.
And one of their big entertainments is they have this big open water area, and it's called the Shifting Revel, I think is what they call it. So it's like all these boats kind of move in a circular pattern around the outside, and on the inside is the entertainment, where there's several different versions, but they'll have people, like convicted criminals sometimes, that if they survive, they get some off their sentence, and they are sent out there to go into the water, and they are given some random weapons, and they have to fight the sharks.
Oh my god.
And apparently they're like really vicious, like sharks that will leap up and like rip your arm off as they fly through the air or something. And it's hardcore.
That's intense.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. Anyway, I think I've recommended that before, but people listening, check out that book if you're interested in a very intense experience.
I mean, when I read Shark Fight, I was kind of thinking more of a, like basically a Pokemon battle with two sharks.
Yeah, maybe.
But I guess it makes more sense if like the guys on the wall are watching this like it's like this. You're clearly expecting someone to get ripped to pieces. So it makes more sense if it's a person in there.
Also, I feel like an actual fight between two sharks would mostly happen underwater, which you probably wouldn't see that much.
No, they just need the wizards to magic up some like glasses that can see through water.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so he's watching as nobody gets ripped apart, and his whole plan starts to unravel. His whole thing was making these guys the devils that everyone hated, and now Serene has cut him off, and people are going to find it hard to hate them. And that's when Duke Telry pulls up. He's like, I warned you about that woman. Now the people will never hate Elantris. And Hrathen has to do some quick talking where he's like, oh, no, it's fine. She's irrelevant. Really, I mean, she can't keep doing this for long, and people will forget fast afterwards. But even then, this was only a little part of our whole plan. I mean, you're still going to be king, right? You're going to have the most money. And Teller's like, I don't know. He's recently got some new contracts in Teod. And Hrathen's like, nah, it's not going to be enough. We crippled his finances. It's all good.
Oh, dear.
So Hrathen's like, in his mind, he was already like, oh, crap, things are falling apart. And then Tellery shows up and is like, hey, things are falling apart. And he has to be like, oh, no, it's fine, man. It's all good.
She hasn't gotten done to our real plan.
And Tellery's like, I'm warning you, Hrathen, don't assume me some Dorethi pawn. I go along with your plans because you were able to produce the wealth you promised. But I'm not just going to be pushed around by you. And Hrathen's like, oh, I wouldn't dream of it. No. Like, he takes him in his carriage for this conversation. And at some point, he stops and he's like, so my mansion is that way. You can walk from here to wherever you're going. And Hrathen is not happy about it, but he's not going to say anything.
Okay, later, you're first.
Exactly.
You're on my list.
You just wait till we're in charge here, and then you'll grumble. And then we get back at his chapel. There's some discussion going on about how, like, wow, we've never had so many conversions. And you guys never had a Gjorn here before, so maybe that's part of it, but whatever. And then Dilloth's like, no, I remember a time after, like, Drio Crushthroat assaulted Teod where there was a wave of conversions. And Joe actually... Yeah.
Guy.
Yep. I was going to say, Joe actually mentions in his section that same thing where he's like, they keep mentioning this guy. But that leads him to realize that Dilloth has to be a lot older than he thought, because he's been thinking he's like 25 years old, but this Drio Crushthroat guy was like 20 years back or something. And if he was already a priest at the time, that means that he's got to be like 40s at least. And so he's been trying to get somebody to take the head Arteth job, but none of the Arteths he's talking to are interested in it. And he's like, oh. And he starts to realize that Dilloth told him in the beginning that, like, he had come from this other place where he had been, like, the guy in charge of the church, and he'd brought a lot of the priests with him. he brought a lot of the followers with him from there. And so he's like, so maybe, like, Dilloff has a lot of power over these people, and that's why they're all turning me down. But there's bound to be at least one of them, right, that'll take this job. And so Hrathen is between a rock and a hard place, with Dilloff maneuvering within his own church to kind of seize control almost, and with Serene battering his plans from the other side. Not to mention Telri in the background, like, he seems to be just waiting for him to screw up badly enough that he can try to back out of their agreement.
Jamie, what did you say before we were recording about what you thought Dilloff was doing?
Oh, there's a line in the chapter. I'm not sure exactly where it falls in, but it's something about Hrathen couldn't see because it was like the room was filling with smoke. Like that's how much visibility he had over the situation. And I misread it, and I was like, as the room filled with smoke, and I was like, oh my god, who's Dilloff burning now? Like, he got another Elantris, and I was like, I don't even. Seems like something wild this guy would do.
Oh yeah, I see that line. It's like his heart was as unclear to him as a room filled with smoke.
Yeah,
I can see how even just now I did that same thing. I misread that. I'm like, as the room filled with smoke, what? Dilloff has decided to just burn him.
Yeah, we're just gonna glide past that something's on fire. Oh wait, no.
He even thinks for a moment after that point where he's just like, maybe we'd be better off if Dilloff was in control. Like, he has that faith, and I'm not sure that I do at this point. And it was kind of surprising to me. Like, we saw his conversation with Father Omen in the last set of chapters, where Father Omen's like, well, what happened to your faith, man? And I never expected, when I read that for the first time, that it would hit this guy so hard. He seems to be really, like Father Omen knew just the right thing to say to make Hrathen start to doubt everything. He's like, I don't have faith, do I? What did happen to it?
He's having a massive existential crisis.
Yeah. This
Why he needs
little
to wear
old
big armor all the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's how you stay confident, is with the armor.
Yeah, it's all about perception.
Yeah, this little Karathi priest, I feel like is maybe sneakier than I gave him credit for. And then we come to Rowden's chapter, the first of the next section of chapters. And Rowden's sitting here and making fun of Ahan's daughter. So Ahan is a big fat guy, and apparently his daughter is very slight-framed, it says. And he's like, I think maybe she needs the food as much as we do. Which is funny, because Rowden knew this girl outside. So he may have been waiting a long time to be able to say something like this without people being like, dude. But she's the only woman brave enough to come with Serene. I think she only agreed because I had Shuden ask her.
Again with Shuden being like the chick magnet.
Well, it probably helps that he's like one of the richest single guys, but yeah.
Oh, but
he's very handsome.
Yeah, I was going to say, when he was showing off while the girls were fencing, like, they were all just like, their jaws just dropped.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, here's the part where he starts thinking about how, like, yeah, him and Shuden had been friends, and now Shuden barely notices him. Same way with Eandel and Keen and Royal and even Lucal. He's known Lucal since they were kids. They're like best friends, so not being recognized is kind of harsh.
Well, I guess, like, he made a point in one of the previous chapters when he finally got a good look at his reflection. Even he didn't recognize himself physically.
Yeah.
Like, he's just that warped by it.
And he reiterates that here. He says he barely recognized himself anymore with his wrinkled skin and spindly body. Even his voice was different. Which I feel like may have, and I don't know if it's said explicitly, but I've always felt like his voice may have changed a bit after what happened when he went in the river and ended up with, like, a lung full of water and was, like, hacking it up when he got out. And she's like, careful, or you'll, like, feel like you have a cold for the rest of your life.
He's gone from an Edward Norton to a Tom Waits.
But yes, and this is the first time that I feel like he makes a point that actually is a good point for why he shouldn't reveal himself. Because up till now, I'm just like, why are you not telling the truth? Why would you not tell your friends who you are? Serene and all your buddies, like, they're not going to hate you because you're an Elantrian all of a sudden. But he's like, look, I know that I'm way more popular with the people than my dad. And so if word of my survival gets out, there would be people who want to follow me, whether or not I'm an Elantrian, and I do not want civil war to break out. So finally, I'm like, okay, here's one decent argument. Still not a great one, because I feel like no one's going to start a civil war on your behalf if they don't have you on their side, probably. And so as long as you're like, no, I don't want anyone to fight my father, then I don't think it would be an issue, but maybe.
I guess people do weird things in the names of other people that they look up to.
It's true.
True.
Someone's just going to show up one day and it's like, hey, we killed your dad and made you king. Aren't you happy? No.
I didn't ask you to do that.
And he's getting to know Serene a little better and decides that he actually really likes her. He's like, where the letters had hinted, Serene fulfilled. She wasn't like the other women in the Arlene court. Yeah, that's because they're all were mostly stupid. So that was Shuden's problem, too, if you recall. He's like, oh, all the women in this court twittering like idiots. Just, I can't stand them.
Well, they've had 10 years of a king telling them that is their place, so fair enough.
No, yeah, I don't necessarily blame them, but it's just like, no wonder Serene strikes him as very different from all these others. And to be fair, Keen's wife is apparently a member of the court, and she is not like that, so not all of them. And he has noticed how these lords that had been part of his team have all fallen in behind her, and they, follow her orders and defer to her judgment, and he's really impressed with her. She was impressive in every attribute, intelligent, beautiful, strong. Now, if only he could convince her not to hate him. Oh, and Duke Tellery showed up this time. He has a manservant, doing the actual handing out for him, but he's hanging out over the side.
Which, this is the bit where I was expecting Shayor to show up.
Well, I agree. That would make sense. But in all honesty, my first thought was, should you tell him, hey, you want to see your daughter? She's here. She's annoying, but...
I feel like even if Shayor wasn't quite a threat, Raiden probably wouldn't do that to Tellery publicly here because that would upset Serene's efforts and would just throw further chaos into the mix, which he's trying to avoid. So
that's true.
I mean, he could have whispered in his ear, but yeah.
Tellery would know that his daughter's there, right?
Well, Tellery knows that she went into Elantris. I guess he wouldn't know whether she was still alive or not. It has been 2 years.
Yeah. Because that would have to surely awaken some feelings in him. It's like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah. So, by the way, we saw your daughter. She leads a gang now. She's kind of a maniac, but hey, she's found a good position in the world. She grew up, she got a job.
You're like, she's kind of a maniac who leads a gang, and he's just like, I'm so proud.
She has people who work for her? Great! Well, yeah, they can barely talk, but...
See, at the very least, I thought maybe he would be, looking around to see if he could spot his daughter, but he's just hanging off to the side, watching with lazy eyes, it says.
Yeah. I feel like he probably thinks she's dead.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like Serene probably is not too thrilled about him not partaking directly, but he's not close enough that she could bark orders at him, I guess.
Right. He's not part of the crew, so he doesn't listen to her. And the one time we've seen them interact was at that one party where he's like, oh, we haven't met. And then after they were introduced, he ignored her entirely. So
yeah, he's just here because it's what the nobles are doing now.
Yep.
It's the new cool thing.
Keep up appearances.
He is a slave to trends.
It's probably 100% true, actually. But Rowden has gotten himself an unofficial job as the guy who, whenever all these noblemen show up and are super nervous and unsure of what to do, he walks over and greets them and makes them, gives them a more relaxed impression so that they are not completely terrified of helping to hand out food. He just did it one day, and now he's expected to keep doing it, so I guess it gives him a good excuse to be there for all the food handing outs if he has a little job. And he's trying to think positive even here, where he's like, so yeah, Serene's thing has caused us a big problem, but we are getting vital goods for our quote-unquote cooperation, I can talk. And, we're going to have to rebuild after this, but in the long run, maybe it'll be okay. But then he's like, well, maybe they're not going to be a long run because I haven't even been here a year and these pains are just like, geez, I can't take it. And he also is having a little bit of an existential crisis where he's like, maybe my pain isn't stronger. Maybe I'm just weaker than everyone else. The day's going to come soon when I'm going to end up in the Hall of the Fallen. So they hand everybody a little sack of food with, he gives a list of various things that are in it. And Galadon shows up and he gives him an extra full bag. And the same with Saolin, Marishi, and Krata. They all get extra food because they're going to go and store some of it, but give the rest to the Hoed. Some of the Fallen were able to recognize food, and Rowden hoped that eating regularly might help restore their minds. So far, it had not. And so the gates close, all the nobles are gone, and now they have to find a way to get their boxes of bribes back to New Elantris, as they're calling it. Apparently last time they just had to carry them all by hand, but their bodies are not as strong as they once were, so it's not a fun thing. And so Marishi has fashioned one of these slim metal sheets into kind of a sled that they can drag. He coats the bottom with grease, and they drag it through the streets of Elantris with the help of the slime that's everywhere to pull these boxes somewhere else. And this is where Galadon's like, well, he finally did something useful. Like, dude, quit being an asshole to Marishi. Seriously.
Yeah. Like, what have you invented lately?
And it says Marishi snorted indifferently, but Rowden could see pleasure in his eyes that Galadon had finally acknowledged that he was being useful. And it says that Galadon refuses to acknowledge his ingenuity, complaining that he didn't want to further inflate Marishi's ego, but Rowden thinks that that's probably impossible. His ego is as big as it could get. And Rowden's like, fine, let's see what the princess decided to send us this time. Galadon says, watch out for snakes. So yes, the first box contains several bales of cloth of a sickeningly bright orange. So, and Galadon's like, geez, that's got to be the worst color I've ever seen in my life. And Rowden smiles, is like, yep. And Galadon's like,
you clearly never had to wear anything olive colored.
Burn olive. See, that's apparently Dac's yellow is olive.
It's the color of snot.
Keep that in mind next time I wear something of an olive color.
Right? Jamie's like, oh, geez, my wardrobe is going to need some editing now.
Yep.
You have anything olive?
Depends on your definition of olive.
We're talking black olives, green olives. I mean, there's all sorts of... No, that's not fair. Yeah, everything black. Black's the worst color. Just throw it all out.
Well, that's all your wardrobe, Dac.
Yep.
Nice. But yes, Rowden he thinks it's funny. He's like, I like seeing the ways that she finds to spite us. And so Serene sticks to the letter of her agreement and gives them everything they ask for, but she's looking for ways to mess with them.
What does she hope to achieve by doing that, though? Isn't the whole point of the Widow's Trial to be helping?
Well, but the helping is the part where she's giving out the food to people. These are the bribes that she's given to be allowed to give out the food to people. So she's like, I can mess with these people.
Yeah, she still thinks she's dealing with oppressors here, so she's just giving him absolute shit because this is her way of saying don't fuck with your people.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fair.
She's like, you're gonna force me to give you all this stuff? Well, fine, I'll teach you. But yeah, so they asked for steel. Previously, they did mention this the first time. They'd asked for sheets of steel, and she delivered 20 plates of metal pounded so thin they almost floated when dropped. So this time they asked for steel by weight, and she sent them bent nails, thousands of bent nails. Not even nails that can be used for building something, bent nails. Where do you even find that many? Did she buy nails and have them bent? But he says four.
Just gave them all to Casey. It's like, hey, I need you to do something for me. Sure, here you go.
It'll be fun. Because he says that Eonik, the blacksmith, is one of the few Elantrians to have remained true to Rowden. So most of the people have wandered away, distracted by the free food. The rest of the supplies weren't as bad. The food was stale, but Karada had stipulated it had to be edible. The oil gave off a pungent smell when burned. Rowden had no idea where she even found that. And the knives were sharp, but had no handles.
Which, what?
Yeah. See, I would say that's not a knife.
I agree.
I'm trying to picture it. I assume it's like the blade with a little bit of a tang sticking down where the handle would normally go. So maybe, I don't know.
She got all the knives with handles and broke the handles off.
Just it's
Again,
yeah.
like, who has the effort for that?
I love
It's so
how much
true.
effort like Karata and the gang have gone through to carefully word their demands so that this doesn't happen. And then she's spending just as much time on the other side going, okay, now how can we mess with this?
It's true. It's a fun relationship that's developing here. I like it actually.
You just got to be picturing like Serene taking the handles off the knives and bending the nails herself, and shooting an Eondel, and the rest are just standing over and just watching it. So I was like, do you think you're being a bit too petty with this?
There's no such thing as too petty when you're Serene.
It's like all their meetings, she's just sitting there bending nails as they talk. And it's like, do you have to do that now?
Yeah, they're having a whole meeting, and she's just the whole time like puts Stanley at the table, like hammers the end a little bit to bend it. It's like, okay, there's one. That's very distracting. Could you stop, please? Oh, no, I got to get like 3,000 of these bent. So unless you want to help, I don't know. Maybe like you can go to a blacksmith and buy like bent nails somehow. I don't know. It's really weird.
Manufactured seconds.
Well, I was thinking like, after a house has been torn down or something, and they're like, well, here's all this metal you can melt down to make something else. I don't know.
She went to the wreckers.
Yeah, exactly. The junkyard, whatever. And they're like, at least she hasn't figured out why we demand wooden boxes. Since all the wood in Elantris is rotten, pretty much, they're using these boxes for lots of things. And Galen's just like, I wouldn't be surprised if she left them unsanded just to give us splinters. Galadon says this while sorting through a pile of rope, looking for the end so he could begin unraveling the mess. So they asked for rope, and she gave them like a big knotted up, like Christmas lights bunch of rope.
That one, I believe, could just be a happy accident, because like you throw a rope into a box and it's gonna come out like that anyway.
It's true. And Galadon's like, dude, if that was the woman you're gonna marry, then Domi did you a favor by sending you here instead. And Rowden's like, no, she's not that bad. And see, Marishi says the same thing Jaymee said. Like, why is she trying to aggravate us? Why is she, like, doing this? And Rowden's explanation is, I think she actually has figured out that we don't actually have that much power. So she has to fulfill our demands because we made the deal. But she doesn't feel like she has to keep us happy because she knows that we can't actually stop the people from accepting the food. And so they're sitting there. I think it said that Rowden has, like, 20 people left from like the large numbers that had started to come to him in New Elantris. So he's kind of depressed about the whole thing. He's like, yeah, this place had such potential, if only for a week. And Gal's like, nah, we'll get there. We'll get there again. It's fine. Kahar comes up and he's like, hey, why haven't you changed? And I was like, oh, I didn't have time yet. It's like, after all the work that Mistress Mary, whatever, went to sewing you a proper outfit. And so he goes and changes into clean clothing. Which, that's nice. As we discussed, like they didn't have any before. Of course, the colors left something to be desired. His shirt was yellow dyed with blue stripes, and his trousers bright red, and his vest a sickly green. Oh, maybe that's olive. Oh gosh, but yeah, I'm trying to picture this, and it's hard to get it all in my brain. The yellow shirt with blue stripes, and the bright red trousers, and the green vest.
Plus, they're balding and their skin is dark and patchy and really good look.
Probably hard to have a good look at all at that point.
It's like, where did she get these clothes? Turns out she raided the wardrobe at the local clown college.
Galadon gets a pink and light green outfit.
Oh, pink and green should not be seen without a colour in between.
That rhymed. That's good.
I'm going to say, is that an actual phrase?
Right.
Yes.
It sounds like an old thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were all these color advice out there. I might be wearing pink and green today. No, I'm not. I'm wearing green.
You
Not without a colour in between.
But anyway.
Ugly orange.
Yeah, exactly. The orange breaks up the pink and the green. It's perfect.
Yep. Beautiful.
Did you say that there was one of Brandon's books that we're going to get to at some point had a heavy focus on color?
Yes, color is very important in Warbreaker.
Are we going to be having these conversations all the way through that book?
I don't know, actually. That's a good point. We'll find out. There's going to be all sorts of pink and green in there, maybe. Who knows?
Oh, dear God.
I'll have to write Brandon a letter.
It's like, dude, you don't understand. Let me explain to you. But no, so apparently yet another thing that the doulas are known for is that they are fond of garish clothing. And he's like, that's the aristocracy, the citizens, and the Republicans. I'm a farmer, and pink isn't exactly what I consider flattering, okay, Colo? And Ron's just like, dude, someday I'm going to find the scholar who told me all doulas were even-tempered and force them to spend a week locked in a room with you, okay? Meanwhile, they run into Saolin on their way to see Karada because Karada is sewing up a gash that he has taken. And they're like, dude, what happened? And he says, I slipped, my lord, and one of them got me. Saolin's soldiers had not thinned as badly as the rest of New Elantris. They were a stern group and not so quick to abandon newfound responsibilities. However, they'd never had much numbers. They barely had enough men to watch the streets leading from Sheor's territory to the courtyard. Each day, while everyone else gets food from Serene, Saolin and his men have to fight a bitter struggle against Sheor's beasts to keep them from overrunning the courtyard. Sometimes you can even hear the howling in the distance.
That is a tough job. That would suck.
Yeah.
And Saolin's really good about all these gashes and things. Like, he must just have a really high pain tolerance or something, because there's no amount of newfound purpose that can make up for some of these injuries, I'm sure.
Yeah. And they lost another guy today, so that's not going to make the next day any easier. And he's like, how did you even get this kind of cut? I've never seen them use anything but like sticks and rocks. And he says that they've changed. Some of them have swords now, and whenever one of my men falls, they drag his weapons away from him. So Rowden's like, so some of these guys are smarter than they are pretending to be. They're not quite as bestial as they would like us to believe. And Saolin's like, we could just let them into the courtyard. And Rowden says, no, even if they didn't kill some of the nobles, the Elantrian city guard would slaughter them. And Galen's like, well, yeah, but wouldn't that be good for us? If somebody else fought Sheor's men, that seems like a win. And Rowden says, no, I feel like the princess has a secondary purpose behind this trial. She keeps bringing different nobles with her as if she wants to acclimatize them to Elantris. And Karada's like, why? And he's like, I don't know. But if it's important to her, but it is important to her. If Sheor's men attack, it will destroy whatever she's trying to accomplish. I've tried to warn her that not all Elantrians are as docile as the ones she's seen, but I don't think she believes me. We just have to keep them away until she's done. And Calvin's like, well, when's that going to be? And Rowden has no clue. Really, at this point, I mean, he says he's like, not all of us are as docile. I feel like you need to warn her that there's a horde of insane people who will try to rip you apart with their hands, and maybe you want to be cautious here. Like, there's a big difference between, hey, not everyone's as nice as us, and that.
Yeah. Because all it's going to take is one attack from that, and Hrathen's going to be like, called it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we cut to Raoden practicing his Aeon some more. And, they still do nothing, but he's trying. He's trying to learn everything that he can. Galen's like, hey, you're getting good. And then Raoden asks how the crops are coming along. And Galadon, there's apparently little corn stalks shooting out. The last week had seen the disappearance of most of the workers that he'd had to help with the farm. Now he's the only one left. Every day he made several treks to the well to bring water back for the plants, but he couldn't carry much because the buckets that Serene had given them leak. Oh, gosh. And he's like, have Karada send for some fertilizer in the next order. And Ron's like, no, we can't let the king know that we're, like, growing our own food. And so he's like, well, ask for some fish. Claim that you suddenly gotten a craving for trike. And then we find out about the Aeon he's practicing, Aeon Tia, which was apparently used for transportation. You can move, as a person can move from Elantris to the other side of the world. But it's also one of the most dangerous Aeons because you have to say exactly where you want to go. And when you do that, you will go there, regardless of if there happens to be something else, like a stone wall already there that you would materialize inside of. So that's risky.
The joys of teleportation.
Right. And then he has an interesting note about a case that he found in that book of weird shit. Woman comes in for treatment for palsy. The Elantrian drew the Aeon slightly wrong, and instead of just vanishing like they usually do when they don't work, it flashed and bathed the woman in reddish light. She was left with black splotches on her skin and limp hair that soon fell out. Sound familiar? She died a short time later. She threw herself from a building, screaming that the pain was too much. So yeah, this sounds very similar to what we're seeing.
One minor fuck up in heal turned this person into a gargoyle.
Yeah. So he says that the person left out one of the 3 basic lines. A foolish error, but it shouldn't have had such a drastic effect. It's almost like the Aeon wasn't completed and the process like froze midway through. And God's like, okay, so what are you saying? And Ram says, well, we're not dead. Our bodies are trapped in some, like, halfway through some transformation process. It began, but something blocked it, just like with the woman's healing. And so the door is waiting for enough energy to finish what it started. That's why we can't heal. It's like we're trapped in a moment in time. And Galen's like, I feel like that's a big leap you're making here. And Round's like, yeah, but I feel like it must be right. He's got a gut feeling here. We're not dead, Galadon, and we're not damned. We're just unfinished. He goes, okay, great. So still need to find out why. But I'm glad the book was of help. And Ron's like, you don't care about my studies at all. You just want to know if your book was useful. What is your deal with these books? And then he's picking at other things. He's like, you say you've only been in Elantris a few months, but you know every back road and alley. You led me straight to Shaor's bank, and the market's not really a place you might have casually explored. And finally, Galadon's like, dude, can I have no secrets? Do you have to drag every damn thing out of everybody? Like, come on. Which, okay, that's fair, right? Galadon reveals that his father was an Elantrian, and he lived with him in Elantris for a while. Didn't really like living in Arelon, but, he says, I guess that's why the door decided to give me the same curse. They said Elantris was the most blessed of cities, but my father was never happy here. I guess even in paradise, there are those that don't fit in. That was his study, so I guess Galadon's dad is the one who was into geography and shit. He studied farming and agriculture, though both were useless for an Elantrian because you could just turn garbage into food. And then Galadon's mom dies. Some diseases strike so quick, and not even Aeon Door can stop them. So my father became the only depressed Elantrian I ever knew. He was happy when I returned to Duladel. He told me to be a farmer. He died a year after I left. Do you know Elantrians can die of simple things, such as heart death? They live much longer than ordinary people, but they can still die, especially if they want to. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah, it's sad.
And Round's like, so you hate Elantris then? Which I would totally think that would be enough to make you hate Elantris. Galen's like, no, not really. We duelists don't hate stuff, really. But growing up in Elantris with a bitter father made me a bad doula, as you have realized. I can't really take stuff as lightly as my people usually do. Poor Galadon.
Yeah, just tragic.
But Round's like, okay, I'm not going to try to cheer you up, but I just want you to know I appreciate you. I don't know if you fit in here. I doubt any of us do, but I value your help, and if we succeed, it will be because you were there to help keep me from throwing myself off a building. And then that night, we get this last section where Rowden is trying to sleep, but something is bugging him. He's trying to think. He heard something today that he didn't realize the meaning of, and he's trying to think back through it, and then he figures it out. And he runs back to the Hall of the Fallen. It was something he heard there, and there's a man saying, beautiful, once so very beautiful. And I don't know if you guys remember, but this is, I think, one of the very first people when Rowden comes to Elantris and first hears people like laying in the gutter or saying the same thing over and over. This guy is like the first or second guy that we hear.
Oh.
So it was built in pretty early, but he gets the guy to say, he's like, what was it that was once so very beautiful? And the guy's like, we were so beautiful once. My hair was so bright, my skin full of light. So this guy has been here since before the Riyadh for 10 years at least.
What a horrible.
Like, oh God, right? Like, who knows how long it was before he became one of the Hoed and just in eternal pain, but probably not that long given how quickly it happens to other people. So that's a long time to be laying there just saying the same thing over and over in pain. But yeah, don't even want to think about it. And that's what Galadon, he's like, 10 years of suffering. But Marisha's like, no, that's way too long. It's impossible. And Ron's like, well, where else would they go? I mean, the survivors of the fall were locked in here. Maybe some burned themselves. Maybe some escaped. But the rest would be like him.
And also, like, as much as I keep saying people should give cut Marishi some slack, it's like, dude, you've only been here a few weeks yourself. You're not an expert.
That's true. Like, what do you think happens, man? And the guy actually is getting, he seems to not be as far gone. Like, he's getting some new words out there. He's like, take me out. And Ron says, where? And he says, the lake. He's like, I don't know what you mean, old man. But the guy moved. His eyes moved. He looks at the door, and Ron's like, okay, get a light. Let's go. And so they carry this guy, and none of them are real strong anymore, so it's not easy. But he manages to, with his eyes, show them where he wants to go. And he leads them to a building, which Galadon says, I think it was some sort of meeting house for Elantrians. My father came here sometimes, but I was never allowed to go. Which now Karada is like, wait, what? So she finds out that about the dad also. And they go into a room, an empty, nondescript room. The guy's looking at the floor, and they see there's aeons there. And so they're trying to figure out what they mean. And Galadon's like, or Ren's like, push on it. And Galadon's like, I'm trying to push on it. It's not doing anything. And Karada's over here like, maybe it's this one, the one that means open. And so she pushes it, and like a secret door opens. Which, hey, that's pretty cool.
Some of it still works.
Yeah. And so they find like some weird like, images drawn on the wall. And Round's like, this place is holy, a shrine of some sort. And really, we've heard that the Elantrians were basically gods, but we don't know anything about what they really believed. And so even Galadon's like, I don't know, my dad never talked about religion, but his people kept a lot of secrets, even from their families. And there's one mural that depicts a mirror-like blue oval, and a guy seems to be flying into it. And the old Lantrian calls it a lake. And Karada's like, oh, it's painted sideways. He's falling into a lake. And Galadon says it's like the water was considered a gate of some sort. And he's like, I think he wants us to throw him in. Galadon, did you ever see an Elantrian funeral? And Galadon says, nope. So they follow kind of this guy's direction. They find a bunch more books. And they notice that there's no slime here. First place in town, not covered with slime. And lanterns on the walls. So they didn't use magic to make light in here like everywhere else in town. So that's weird.
No magic allowed here.
Well, yeah, that's what Karada guesses, at least. It's like Aeondor must have been forbidden here for some reason. And Galadon's like, so no aeons, no slime? Is that a coincidence? To which Rodden says, perhaps. I feel like no, but who knows? And that's when, following the guy's eyes once again, they find a long, seemingly endless passage cut into the stone, and they follow it down. Or really, they follow it up, because they end up on a mountain, basically. Abutting the slope to the north was the city of Kay, and to the northwest stood the enormous monolith that was Elantris. And they go up, and there, sure enough, is a lake. And they put him in the lake. He releases a blissful sigh. His face seems smooth, his eyes become alive again, and he dissolves.
And you'll laugh. My stupid thought when they got to the top is like, hang on, they climbed to the top of a mountain, there's a lake in a crater. Did they just walk into a volcano and put him in there?
Volcanoes have made a comeback.
Oh dear.
That's
Sure, that's not what they were going
magic.
for, but just popped into my head.
Wouldn't it be ironic if we find out at the end that Elantris magic got screwed up because of a volcano?
Whoops.
Oh, gosh. And they're like, wow, okay, that was weird. And Rowden's like, dude, when I'm hoed, I want you to bring me here, okay? Don't make me live in pain. And Goblin's like, whatever, man. You're young for Elantris still. You'll last for years. And Rowden just makes him swear that they'll bring him back. They'll bring him here. And then they go back to the city. And that is the end of our chapters for this time. So I think when I listened to Joe's thing, one of the things he mentioned was there's just kind of some downer stuff here. I was like, yeah, a little bit. At least they found a way out of the pain. If they ever want to commit suicide, you don't have to burn yourself and hope maybe the pain ends.
Yep, they have at least they think it's painless.
The guy seemed to enjoy it when they put him in, so it's a good sign, I guess.
Yeah.
So, okay, let us do predicaments. What do you guys think is going to happen from here?
But I guess with that, I'm going to move on to predictions, okay? So, again, I predict that Sereni and Raiden are going to figure out Like, she's going to connect the dots. She's going to figure out who he is with the help of Aish or by herself. However that happens, she's going to figure it out, and hopefully that connection will be good. I would love if Raoden's friends figured out that it was him, but it'd also be kind of sad, so I don't really know. Hrathen, I don't know where he's going. Maybe this will strengthen. Maybe he'll come through on the other side of this with a stronger faith, or maybe he'll be completely thrown and like start serving Shu Korath. That would be weird, right? Maybe Dilloth will take over, and that's what Hrathen will actually want. But that would mean turning his back on people and not caring about pain that they're being caused. So I just don't see that happening. And I hope Raoden. I predict Raiden's gonna figure out something with this magic. Some reason that the magic's not working in Elantris. And maybe he just needs Serene's help to do it. She's a smart woman, obviously. He's saying, he notices that in the chapter that she's got something he didn't have, something that took him a long time to do. She's done very quickly. So maybe he just needs her help with all this, and maybe that'll fix it. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping happens.
Okay. Look, I think now that as Salem's men are sort of becoming fewer, I think we probably are going to see Sheor's men break through sooner rather than later. And I don't know that that's necessarily going to go well for our nobles inside. Possibly, they'll come under attack. Maybe we'll lose some nobles. Probably not nobles that we know, because they seem to be on a rotation coming into the city. Raoden will be there. He'd probably rescue Serene. She will go back to New Elantris and I guess learn what's actually going on there. Whether that all happens in the next few chapters or the next sections, I'm not sure if it'll be that quick, but we are 50% of the way through, so probably sooner rather than later.
57% now, actually.
Yeah, okay. I guess maybe before that happens, maybe Ash will get some more information about what's actually going on too. I mean, he's trying to go through fairly unnoticed, I guess, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how much that he'll actually be able to find out to get back to Serene without, finding everything out going into New Elantris. I think it makes sense for her to go further into Elantris at this point. They keep coming back to Raoden feeling the pain more than anybody else, which is sort of hard to judge because we don't see anyone else's viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a case of he just can't cope with it, or is there something that's actually making him feel it more, which I think we'll probably find out sooner. Well, I'm hoping we find out a bit sooner, especially knowing a bit more about the magic involved now. And maybe we'll actually find some more original Elantrians in the Hoard as well, going around actually listening more to what they've got to say, who's actually losing it. Because, I mean, the sad thing about the guy that we just saw, he seemed to, like, his mind, he knew what he was talking about. He wasn't gone, he just couldn't communicate it very well, which is really sad. They're all in pain, but they're all still pretty well there. They've not gone totally crazy. So maybe there's, now that they know that there's an Elantrian, or there was an original Elantrian in there, maybe there's more Elantrians that can give them some more clues as to what's going on with the magic. They've definitely come a long way in these chapters that we've just read, but now knowing about this space, there's more books and all that sort of stuff. Maybe there's more secrets in there to the magic as well. Potentially things that were forbidden or not talked about, given that there's no magic down there. It's a dangerous side to the magic, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that in the long run they'll find a way to actually reverse it. If what Raoden's sort of speculating is true, that would be nice to have a happy ending.
Yeah, no joke.
Where they can all go back. But I'm gonna say that maybe Raoden won't make it back. Maybe he might be able to make it better for other people, but in the end he won't survive it.
That'd be sad.
It would be sad, but yeah.
I like the thought that if there's more like original Elantrians, that would be perfect. Like people who actually knew about this stuff and might be able to help. Especially because in the same chapter we got this Raoden saying that they're trying to give them food in the hopes that maybe it'll bring some of them around. So they got this new plan to kind of bring people around a little bit, and now we have a reason why maybe we want them to be able to bring some more people around. Because that would be some good information that there's no other way to get at this point if you could find the Elantrian who was there.
Yeah.
I also really like your idea that they're going to attack, and as soon as you're like they're going to attack and maybe kill some nobles, I was like, who in our story could we see killed, and like that would make things better or make things worse in some way? Like, what if Telri is like murdered by Elantrians? Like, is that bad for Harathan's plan? Would he be really mad about that, or does that actually it kind of helps him because you see them being bad, so maybe it's good for his plan?
I feel like he can always find someone else to sit the throne if he needed.
Probably.
Yeah,
Or the
true.
king.
There's a lot of his plans that aren't going to plan at the moment. Like, he's banking on the fact that Ireden's completely broke and won't be able to sustain being king, whereas he doesn't know Serene's just secured this deal, which actually helps him immensely. So having Telri around, to step in, that probably won't happen anyway, because Serene has plugged, his plans at a couple of stages so far that he doesn't know about.
Yep. I think we're still not clear if it's enough money to save the day, because Telri's like, oh, he's got this new money coming in, and Raiden's like, it won't be enough. So I guess we don't know yet whether Serene's plan is going to be enough to save him. She seems to at least hope it will be. What if the king went into Elantris, and because everyone else was doing it, was the cool thing to do, and he got killed?
Ooh, that'd be
Or
interesting.
Royal even like Royal or shooting, like that would be a big wrench in the plans if one of those people was killed.
And that also might, Raiden sees his father die in front of him, and then he's like starts screaming about it because, like, as much as he hates his father's policies, he still cares about him as a person. So
Right.
that could blow his cover.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Possibilities coming.
Yes. I don't have anywhere near as much. I agree. I think they're going to start finding more and more of the older Elantrians among the Hoed. And I feel like Rowden's probably going to try and take them up to the lake and just sort of give them rest. And I feel like doing that's probably going to have some sort of knock-on effect for the actual magic itself by returning people who are, using some of the magic, some of the door, returning to the pools so they dissolve and float free is going to try and it'll probably bring some of the door back, like return some of it to like the magic stream, the reserves, and like maybe help them fill back up a little bit so they can actually start using the magic properly.
That's a good thought, actually. You had your theory last time about maybe there's a door open somewhere and the door is leaking out, and so if we pump some more in there by getting rid of some of these people who are using some of it, that's a good thought.
Yeah, it could build it back up a bit. Yeah, I mean, I still think the door needs to be closed so it can be controlled, but like if there's enough for reserve, and plus, and also with that, like as they find more Elantrians, they'll have to find someone among them who's lucid enough to at least sort of explain what's going on, because otherwise we're really not going to get much in the way of answers.
Yeah, maybe not. You feel like somebody's got to know something, hopefully, or else.
Yeah.
Also of note, though, is we talked about last time how you're like, if there's magic leaking out somewhere, and I was like, well, we'll have to be on the lookout for something weird and magical happening. And then lo and behold, we have some freaky magic lake on a mountain that dissolves people. So possibly related.
Doesn't seem to be affected by the rest of the loss of the door, considering it still works fine when all the other magic stuff doesn't. So
assuming that's what the lake was supposed to do, we have no idea. Actually, maybe he was like, take me to the lake, it'll fix me, and then it destroys him instead.
Well,
And
possibly.
then he dissolved.
He's like, wait, no.
He didn't seem to have that reaction, but I guess you don't know.
That's true.
His mind was so far gone by that point.
He seemed kind of happy at the end, so I mean.
Yeah. And we know that like the Elantrians definitely worshipped the lake in some way because they had the murals about it, but
that's true, yeah. The murals of like flying into the lake or diving or whatever sideways into the lake, yeah.
Maybe old Elantris had some rule. It's like, after 100 years of being an Elantrian, then you go into the lake, you return your magic to the well, and the process starts over. Someone else can become an Elantrian or something. I don't know.
I was gonna say that's really interesting. Like maybe you can only get a new Elantrian when an old one like goes into the lake and disappears. But we get new Elantrians all the time, and I don't think anyone else is going to that lake. So
that doesn't line up. Not unless you've got one Elantrian who's still with it enough, and he's just been sneaking people out a few days at a time, and just like, all right, into the lake you go.
Oh, that would be funny. Like one old Elantrian like living on their own, sneaking around, kind of like Ben Gunn on Treasure Island or something. That's actually a really cool idea. We're gonna have this like guy we've seen in the background several times, and eventually you realize that he's more than he seems.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Any other thoughts?
No, that's really about it.
All right. We actually did have 2 emails this week, but since my computer died at the beginning of this episode and I can't access that email account from my phone, we will have to save those for next time.
That's right. We'll save it when Joe's back.
Yeah. Joe can be here. Maybe they'll say mean things about him. I don't remember what they said. So give him a chance to react. It'll be great. Anyway, so for next time, we are bumping up to 6 chapters that we are reading.
Hey.
So 26, let me count to make sure I got them all. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. 26 through 31. It's 6 chapters. So as you might imagine, that means some of them are rather short chapters, but they should be pretty interesting, and I'm excited to get to those.
Things might be happening rapidly.
Yeah. We're gonna start the Sanderlanche 57% of the way through the book. It'll be great. It's all just action from here on out. That might be a little much, actually. Let's not do that.
Probably not at the Sanderlanche quite yet.
Yeah. And then suddenly Elantris caught fire.
Oh god, everything's on fire. The fire door's on fire.
It's like the entire second half of the book. It's like, oh, it's the Great Chicago Fire fantasy setting.
We're just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. It'd be great.
Yep. Rathan's trying to preach in the middle of it. It's like, just settle down. It's all part of the plan, people.
It's all part of the plan. But if you would like to send us emails, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all those sorts of places. Also, because we are recording episodes more rapidly in the next few weeks, because there'll be some weeks where we don't record. If you are sending an email, even aside from the fact that, like I said, the ones that came in this week we're not even reading this week. So it may be a while before you hear your email on the show, is what I'm saying. So don't get discouraged. Other than that, music by Miracle of Sound, and Wussing to the Time of Next. Hello.
My name's Joe. Get up, get out of the city.